This came to me the other day pretty strongly, and I hasn't left my mind since, and I kind of think it's worth a conversation. We have so many more dystopias than utopias in our art and in our media, our short stories, our books, our films. It's like humanity can imagine a dystopia 1,000 different ways. We could come up with those all day. We could probably never run out of ways, right? But on the flip side of that, our ability to imagine utopia at all is incredibly limited. Even just bringing up the word, the concept itself is to basically open yourself up to almost immediate ridicule. Even if you just want to have a philosophical discussion about it, just bringing it up even in that context will get jokes made at your expense and snarky comments thrown at you. The only way to fight back against the group mass Borg zombie hive is self-individuation. It's timid nasce.
It's Latin. Means know thyself.
And knowing it so well that is stronger than the pressure of that group against it. It's going inside yourself. It's figuring out who is really in there pulling the switches. What are those switches? Why are they switches? Who is at the control board? What programs are running on that board? Did you install those programs? Did childhood trauma install those programs? Are they just running in the background in your sys tray and you don't even know why you react to certain things in reality the way that you do? Because it's one thing to say, well, they're manipulating people 1,000 different ways in our society, but that's at some level only because people aren't taking any responsibility for themselves in that way. They're trying to get somebody else to tell them everything to think and feel so they don't have to have any personal responsibility in that. A person who knows who he is a lot harder to manipulate. And I think that's why this society works so hard to grind the individual down. Or tell you that your one defining, distinguishing characteristic is a label that makes you a victim in some way, which is not putting you in a place of power at all in your own life. Because once you accept that victim label, you are by default at a disadvantage and triggerable, because now whatever triggers are attached to that label, they're attached to you. And you become like a wind-up doll or a robot to that victim label. Not to mention it's just another mask under which the real person is hidden or obscured. And I get it that the line, be the change you want to see, has been turned into a cheesy cliche that they use to now sell coffee mugs and t-shirts and what have you, but this is the sentiment behind that idea, that if people stand in themselves knowing who they are, they cannot be controlled in this way. And that also has a ripple effect because there's a power in that. It's a powerful force. It can beat back the groupthink that would lead society to a hell of its own making again and again and again. Resistance to the organized mass can be affected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. So this is that point that was made in The Matrix. This is that point that gets made in a lot of these films. And I think it's what is used in most of these dystopias in order to defeat the dystopia is when the person figures out who he is. He figures out where his power lies in that, and he finds a way out of that nightmare. And if everybody did that together, there's no possible way one of these horrific dystopias could ever take hold. It wouldn't be possible because people would realize where power ultimately lies, where authority ultimately comes from, where legitimization comes from of a system. And then there wouldn't be people eating the bugs or whatever it is that's being said about what's going to occur. We do not have no other option but then to zombie walk into a dystopic nightmare together. That's not a future we have to accept. And I don't know why people are acting like they are. Like every time something happens, they're just like, well, that doesn't shock me. I'm not surprised anymore. And I just don't care. Okay, well then if you don't care, then I guess you won't care when you live in one of these realities. I guess that's what you're going to get for not bearing any responsibility at all in the situation. Because if everybody knows who they are, they can't be turned in one of these automatons that just walks off into whatever dystopic nightmare has been plotted for him, by some guy in a business suit on a blue stage somewhere. I mean, that's it's going back to realizing who has authority over you in the most basic level, where authority comes from, where legitimization comes from, Everyone wants to get lazy with it. We're going to end up in Klaus Schwab's nightmare land. And I for one, think that's bull. So are we just going to go along in the Ash conformity experiment or what? I guess that's my question. Because we could start making our own images about what this reality is going to be. We have that power. We have that ability. And I just think everyone needs a reminder of that. I love you guys. And I mean it when I say that.